discuss this latest report and what's going on here in the fight against ISIS right now with Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson. He is the chairman of the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs. You're the right man to have this discussion. It's good to have you, Senator. Welcome to New Day. Congratulations on your first grandkid, first of all, family first. Yeah. A very special Mother's Day in your house.
Well, I'll tell you what, titles of husband, dad, grandpa, I mean, there's no greater titles than those, so.
Doesn't get any better
than that.
Yesterday. And obviously now you got a grandkid to worry about, so renewed sense of urgency about the job. Let's look back first, and then we'll deal with what we're dealing with today and going forward. Do you believe that the U.S. government basically just lied about what happened with Osama bin Laden?
No, and I'll tell you, one thing that I don't think has really gotten enough publicity is, I met with General Flynn, who is the former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. And, he has been kind of pushed out of office because he was complaining internally how this administration has shut down the analysis of the treasure trove of intelligence that was gained in that raid. We only analyzed about 10%. The reason this administration shut down the analysis of it, according to General Flynn, is they didn't like the results. It wasn't confirming their narrative that al-Qaeda was decimated on the run. And so General Flynn, and we need to pay attention to this. I can't believe this hasn't gotten more publicity, said that this administration's foreign policy now is basically being predicated on willful ignorance. I mean, that's a pretty serious charge from a very serious individual, so we need to pay attention to that. But no, I don't believe that. I mean, we saw pictures of the downed helicopters. There's too much corroborating testimony in terms of...
Too many people had to lie, and the question becomes why. What would have been the upside, right?
Yeah, I don't believe it.
And now you're taking a very different direction. You're saying Hirsch is wrong because the truth is something that's also bad for the administration. You're saying they haven't analyzed the data, and how would we prove that? How would you show that they've only analyzed 10% and that they stopped for the narrative?
Talk to General Flynn. Get him on your show. Understand his viewpoint. And to just take a look at President Obama. Was it January in 2014, looking at ISIS, calling it the JV team? I mean, there's a certain amount of delusion here in terms of just trying to deny the reality of what we're dealing with in this country.
Fair pushback, though. All you guys got ISIS wrong, didn't you? I mean, we didn't see it coming, even though it's all Saddam's old guys who went in there. And we did kind of sleep on this threat until very recent.
The president is the commander-in-chief. I mean, he runs the agencies. He runs the Defense Department. He is the commander-in-chief of our military. It really falls on the administration.
But you wind up getting into a mutuality of responsibility. As you know, the AUMF, the authorization for the use of military force. Congress is sleeping on that. They don't want to do it because of the political implications. At least that's the speculation.
No, I would say we're not, really debating it because what President Obama is asking for is an authorization weaker than the one he's using right now. And I was pretty strong in those hearings talking about, here's a real declaration of war, and I read the declaration of war against Japan, where we pledged every asset of this country to defeat Japan. Now, I also pointed out how tenuous the authorization that this administration is using right now, but they're using it. They've got the legal justification, and it's a far stronger authorization than the one President Obama is asking for right now. And Chris, from my standpoint, if we want to start defeating, and protect this nation, keep it safe, secure from, let's say, homegrown extremists, we need to make sure that ISIS is actually defeated, that they're perceived as losing, as opposed to right now, because their use of social media, it's a winner's message. They're perceived as winning, and as long as they're perceived as winning, they're going to continue to inspire the type of terrorist activity that we saw in Texas just last Sunday.
Now, you've been out in front of this. You want the Iran deal to be treated as a treaty,
Correct.
Which means it needs a two-thirds authorization of the Senate to then become ratified by the president.
What a concept, to actually have the American people involved through their elected representatives affirmatively approving of any deal between Iran and the negotiating partners.
But Corker and his partner on the left voted it down. Or at least they believe
they were trying to preserve the underlying bill, and Senator Corker understood that this was the only bill that the Democrats and President Obama would support. And again, understand what a low threshold of approval that is. I won't go through the entire details, but basically 34 senators. Right. Can approve this deal, and it'll get the rubber stamp of approval by Congress.
Because they're treating it as an executive order, an executive
deal.
And
I certainly think, at a minimum, it should be a congressional executive agreement, affirmatively approved by at least a majority in both houses, but we couldn't even get a vote on that amendment.
But if you look at that situation, and you look at what's going on with the non-debate on the use of force, And really, you do have to point, you know, the old saying, you point a finger at him, there are four fingers pointing back at you. It's every reason to debate what we're doing
Chris,
with ISIS, but you won't even debate it. Not you, but the whole Congress.
Again, but we did have the debate in foreign relations, both under the last Congress and in this. And the problem that certainly Republicans have is that the authorization for use of military force that President Obama is asking for from Congress weakens his authority, weakens his power.
So then debate it and get the people with you to get something stronger.
We have, but again, we also know, we can count votes. And we also realize that trying to pass something would probably not be possible in terms of
pragmatism
stronger.
or principle. What are you guys about? I mean, you got to make that choice.
Well,
right?
we made that point. I'm not sure we could pass anything through the Senate that would be stronger than what President Obama is looking for right now. So, certainly from my standpoint, he's using this authorization. What I'm looking for from this president is a commitment to achieve the goals that he himself has stated: degrade and ultimately defeat ISIS. The sooner the better. And I'm not seeing that commitment to the success of that goal.
And what we see now is the risk is every bit as real and more so than we ever imagined. Now it seems that just social media and congratulating those who do terrible things is enough for the ISIS brand to be extended. So you're saying the threat couldn't be more real. It's what we're doing to stop it.
And again, the sooner we defeat them, that we deny them the territory so we can close down this caliphate, the better off we're going to be in terms of denying them their ability to inspire action, because it's going to be incredibly difficult for ISIS to say they're a winning organization when the caliphate finally gets shut down. But again, we haven't committed the resources we need to actually defeat ISIS militarily on the ground. What we're doing is we're ceding that ground to Iran, which is going to be pretty dangerous for the region. You can see why the new Saudi king snubbed the president, because he's so concerned that this administration is not backing the allies in the region, and instead to do this nuclear deal with Iran, basically ceding power to Iran in the region.
That's one angle on it, that's why the king isn't showing up to have the meeting with the president. But one thing's for sure, he won't be there with the other Arab leaders. Senator,
Chris,
thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Important conversation to have. Allison.
Okay.